What are you afraid of? That is the question that best defines this manga. With the exception of the works of Junji Ito, I must admit that my experience with horror manga hasn't been very satisfying, because I usually find in these works an atmosphere that fails to bring tension, discomfort, and fear, as the focus often revolves only around extreme violence that doesn't hold up when there is nothing beyond it. And I think that's precisely why, because I had no expectations, that PTSD Radio managed to win me over. The manga has a somewhat different approach and may not appeal to everyone, because the chapters are extremely short and usually alternate between different places, characters, and time periods, which can be quite confusing, especially since the characters look so similar. But personally, I think this seemingly disconnected narrative is exactly what brings that frightening atmosphere to the story, which gradually connects through the presence of an evil god that manifests in truly terrifying ways. The first chapter begins with an elderly woman cutting her granddaughter's hair, and as the story progresses, we revisit that same girl and other characters at different points in their lives to uncover the connection between them and the strange events that intertwine with the hair, directly linked to this god that began to do horrifying things after a ritual in its honor was performed improperly. Each of the stories is presented as if it were a radio frequency interrupted by static, but that eventually returns to continue the events. So it's worth paying attention to these details, which in a way evoke a very interesting and immersive particularity. The manga is truly a puzzle, not only because of its scattered points, but also because it dives straight into the depths of our unconscious, making us reflect on what scares us. This dynamic between the desire to explore what lies beneath the bed and the fear of what might be found is part of what composes the horror of this narrative. A horror that, although it reaches us in different ways, always brings an unsettling feeling that stays with us, both through the way the supernatural manifests and through the art of Masaaki Nakayama, which seems to leap off the page, come to life, and haunt us. It's almost as if we were listening to a horror story being told by someone around a campfire, and it's no surprise that the short chapters carry this familiar weight of urban legends and accounts of apparitions that many people claim to have witnessed, since the author himself incorporated disturbing events that he personally experienced during the creation of this work. The unsettling, familiar, and persistent atmosphere of this manga manages to transport us to that terrifying world that exists in our minds when we feel uneasy about something. You know when that pile of clothes you leave in a corner seems to take on a frightening shape in the dark, making you wonder whether it's just your mind playing tricks on you, or if it's actually something supernatural, or when you get the feeling that you're being watched even when you're alone. That's PTSD Radio. Every corner in this manga seems to hide something disturbing lurking, ready to haunt you at any moment. Whether it's lighting a lighter in the dark just long enough to briefly reveal a horrifying face that went unnoticed, or walking into the bathroom only to come face to face with an apparition that makes itself seen without any hesitation, or even accidentally crossing paths with something that decides to follow you every night just because your paths once crossed. PTSD Radio knows how to present, through its brief stories, how fear works. Most chapters are filled with terrifying presences that follow the characters and make them feel unimaginable despair. But there are also brief moments where there is some discernment about what may or may not be real, because that feeling can sometimes be just a manifestation of trauma or an unresolved internal conflict. The deity that haunts the characters' lives uses hair as the main instrument of its wrath. The manga makes it clear that for this god, there is no concept of good or evil, and that makes it even more frightening because people approach it with different intentions. As long as its thirst for sacrifices is satisfied, anything can be asked, including someone's death. The deity known as Ogushi grants many good things to those who believe in its presence and turn to it in moments of need. An example of this happens when two sisters get lost and pray for help to find their way back home. Everything turns out well in this case, as in others, but it only takes a single misstep for it to unleash a terrible curse that affects even those devoted with good intentions. The manga moves through different time periods and gradually presents vague information about how this resentment began. This blend of past and present events makes it clear that this god's anger has endured over time. This isn't the first time hair has been used as a horror element to further distort the image of characters, causing all kinds of body horror. Horror works often take advantage of this resource because hair carries a range of meanings and symbolism that can be associated with spirituality or with certain folkloric and cultural connections. The author knew how to create this uncomfortable atmosphere surrounding hair, and his creativity managed to go to places I couldn't even imagine. In one of the stories, a girl wakes up every day with her toes intertwined with human hair. She doesn't know why this happens and is frightened as she tries to come up with a logical explanation, until the day comes when it's no longer possible to ignore what's happening. Because one morning, she realizes that her feet are almost tied up by an enormous amount of hair. In another chapter, which dates back to a time long before most of the events presented, 3 boys find and open a sealed wooden box that was part of a ritual for this god. They begin to be haunted by the head of a doll, and that same box is revisited again when another character from a different time period throws a stone at a crow and is then chased by dozens of these animals, which had been transformed into creatures after coming into contact with the strands of hair that had been sticking out of the object long ago. My verdict on PTSD Radio is that it can be a good experience for those who don't expect a linear story or a strong sense of social critique. And since horror is subjective, I can only share my own point of view. Unfortunately, the story does not have a conclusion, and I honestly think that the reason, despite being terrible, is brilliant in its own way. The author made it clear in some extra chapters in volumes 5 and 6 that he began experiencing a series of frightening and supernatural events in the office he was using as a studio for the production. Strange noises, lights turning off, the smell of something rotten, shadowy figures in the office, and even the appearance of a rare illness were things that haunted him and his team. Nakayama said that whenever they talked about these strange events, bad things would start to happen, and because of that, he ended up setting the story aside. Whether this is true or not, since the idea of a story cursing its own author is fascinating in itself, I see this account as a fitting ending for Koishu Radio. I read a comment about it saying that Nakayama had become a character in his own work, and I can't help but agree when I look at everything through this macabre lens. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment about what you thought of the work. Anyway, see you later, and we'll see you in the next video.